released to you early this morning is kind of a continuance on kind of sort of what I've been talking about, where God says in the book of Hosea, the 6th chapter, not the 4th chapter, and the 6th verse, and God says that his people perish for the lack of knowledge. His people perish for the lack of knowledge. And the reason why God was saying that was because it wasn't the fact that God wasn't speaking truth. It wasn't the fact that God was speaking truth. But they perished because what they were saying, what God was saying, what the priest was saying, what Hosea was saying, they rejected it. They rejected it. They kept on rejecting truth because they wanted to hear something that would satisfy their flesh. They wanted to hear something that would appease them. But because the word came, they criticized, they attacked, and they rejected the knowledge of the truth. And God had to say something, and God had become contrary with his people. And he mentioned and he said that his people are perishing and will perish because of the lack of knowledge, because they're rejecting what I'm saying. And then what happens then is that God says, because they rejected me, I'm going to reject you. And so those are the words that what God is saying, is that it's very important to really hear what God is saying. The scripture says, the day that you hear my voice, harden not your heart. And see, when judgment comes, there will not be any kind of excuse, because God, the word is going out. And as the scripture says, in the last days, the word is going to be preached. Before the end comes, it's going to be preached throughout the whole world. But that's not going to be the end. That's not going to be in. That's not going to be in. But the end's going to come when Judah breaks his agreement with his brother. And then there's going to be a betrayal, basically, a betrayal. And so, and that's what's going to happen. It always does. And it always does from an agreement, a disagreement, where there were partners, but then there's a disagreement. And that's when the end of the world, as we know, is going to come, because somebody got betrayed. And so those are some of my words this morning, is that study your word. Study your word, because in that word, there's life. And in that word is exactly what you want. Don't have an opinion. Don't try to form an opinion what God is saying, because you can't. Because the scripture says, if you add to the word, God is going to add plagues. But if you take away, he's going to take away. You trying to get up? He's going to take away your name out of the Lamb Book of Life. So those are some of my words.